Hi everyone, my name is Evangeline Abriel, and I'm here to talk to you about Santa Clara University School of Law's Sydney program in Sydney, Australia. I'm here with two wonderful students, Megan Holdman and Justin Bendana. Both of them were on the Sydney program and did externships through the program, so they have a lot of great information to give you about their experiences. I wanted to start off telling you briefly about the curriculum. We have a 3-week course that is followed by optional externships. The course is refugee law and international environmental law. In the refugee law portion of the course, we talk about asylum, refugee status, and other forms of relief from harm for people fleeing danger and harm in their country. And this can include things like trafficking, immigration relief for trafficking in persons, immigration relief for victims of crime, special sorts of relief for children who are fleeing violence in their countries. So we cover those in that course. The course also covers international environmental law, taught by a wonderful University of Technology Sydney professor, and our course is actually housed in the University of Technology Sydney. Both of these areas are wonderful courses to study in Australia, because Australia, like the United States, has a lot of national concern about these topics. Australia has its own problems with refugees and has devised extensive laws and policies about what refugees they will admit and how they will protect people within their borders. It also has its own special flora and fauna, so protection of its environment is a huge issue in Australia. So it's a wonderful place to study these two particular topics. You come to Australia because you were interested in being in another country, and so we try to take advantage of that as well. And this goes both in terms of cultural events and in terms of Australia's natural wonders. So, for example, we go to an Australian footy game. If you've never seen an Aussie rules footy game, then you will like it. We also take a trip to the Blue Mountains, and on the way we stop at the Featherdale Wildlife Park, where you can hold a koala and
pet the koala.
Pet the koala.
You can't hold the koala there.
Right.
You can hover your hand behind.
That's environmental law coming out. So part of Australia's natural environmental protection is that you can pet the koala but not hold the koala. You can also see wombats and quokkas, my own favorite animal, and in general enjoy the wonderful animals of Australia. We also take time to visit Australian legal institutions. So we go to courts and other legal offices. We visit the Aboriginal Legal Services Office, where we learn about Australia's particular history with its first Australians and what the country has done to try to correct the harm that has been done to them in the past. So we try to make sure that you get a lot of cultural exposure as well as studying these two great topics. Then, if you like, you can do an externship following the coursework. We have several types of externships. The major ones are in refugee law organizations, criminal defense, and then a wonderful new placement in environmental law. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan and to Justin to let them tell you a little bit about their experiences here. So Megan and Justin, could you tell us where you externed and sort of what the tasks were that were assigned to you?
I did the criminal defense externship, and I really liked the area of social justice, and it was absolutely interesting because I've had experience in public defenders' offices here in America, but then stepping into a different country, into a different way of how they handle things, and also a different realm of law. And it was at Legal Aid New South Wales, and right now we only have like Gideon, so we only have public criminal defense in America. But in Australia, they have civil Gideon, and basically they have like a 3-story, like 3 levels in the big building in downtown Sydney that did family law, civil law, Aboriginal law, and criminal defense. And in the criminal defense, we got to do something really beautiful, which was we would have the resources. We would handle cases after the trial and we would do all of sentencing, and we were able to get like psychologists and look into their background and realize what led to their to the act of breaking the law. And then so we'd have all these mitigating factors, and we'd stand before the judge and we'd get them like a good deal, we'd get them through rehab programs, and really bring out the humanity of them, which we're only able to do that here in America in like in felonies. Sorry.
That sounds wonderful. And Megan, how about you? What tasks were you assigned to do?
Well, I was actually on the opposite end of the spectrum. I work for the Department of Public Prosecutions of New South Wales, which is, as it sounds, criminal prosecution. So, exact opposite. Was actually a new program. We hadn't had any sort of an arrangement with the DPP prior, so we were all kind of figuring it out how it worked, whereas legal aid had had some experience and kind of knew what they wanted to do with interns. We were all kind of just jumping into the deep end, and the supervisors were kind of just winging it. So it was a really good experience for us all to kind of learn how to do this together. I know I got a lot of questions from the different prosecutors that, well, how would this have been handled? And you don't wear funny costumes when you go to court in America, do you? And that kind of thing. I was asked to do all sorts of things. I did sit in on an assistant court on a child sexual assault matter that lasted about a week. I didn't really work on that case very much. I just kind of came up with a line of questioning to be proffered to the defense, particularly to the defendant himself. And then I ended up working from start to finish on a murder trial, which was a really, really great experience. I was working on different timelines. We had to try to eliminate other people who could have also been responsible for inflicting the injuries. I had to go through all sorts of medical documentation, and let me tell you, medical terminology, especially as it relates to the brain, really, really, really hard to understand. So I spent a lot of time learning just what these terms meant, trying to figure out what it meant to the case, and then having to make different charts to kind of, okay, well, this report says this report says this, and this interview said this. So I went through hundreds of different interview tapes and all sorts of police reports, and it was really lengthy. Pretty much anything that the prosecutors would have worked on were things that I was working on.
In the refugee law placements, students routinely screen prospective clients, help work on clients' applications for asylum, collect background documents, and have in general a lot of client contact, which our students say is a wonderful experience and a great skill that's directly transferable to their work in the United States. Justin, how about you with client contact? Did you get some client contact?
Oh, lots. We did a lot of client interviews, and I'd go through their psych report, and then I'd talk to them, and we'd go on a long client interview, some of which I've never done before. Like, so some of them are in like different jails around the state of New South Wales, and we had to do it by video telecommunications. And so that was a new skill. And then also talking to them in person and seeing what they want and if they're getting the help they need.
Anything else that you all would like to add about the program, or something that was meaningful to you aside from your externships?
I would just say that the two prosecutors that I worked with, they had a lot of trust in me. They were willing to work with me. They didn't treat me like someone who had no idea what was going on. Helen gave me a lot of the same assignments that she herself would have done, so I saved her a lot of time and energy so she could work on other tasks. So it just felt really good to be part of the team, and that's, you know, what they always want to make sure you feel included. So if that means shoving a whole bunch of chairs together at the council's table, then so be it. So I know they really, really kept me included from start to finish and wanted my input and asked my opinion. And how do you think I should address this? Or do you really think I should ask this? Or should we fight about getting this type of information in? And it was really great because they treated me like I was a junior attorney who knew what I was doing.
Have employers in the United States been interested in hearing about what you did in Australia?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I had an interview with the federal defenders, and they asked me what area or what certain thing that really interested you in law school, and I talked about how much I loved working in Australia, which is kind of a funny thing to bring up in an interview. Like, I love working somewhere else, but I just talked about how their sentencing is completely different. I mean, not only the culture with the horse wigs and the black robes, and you can't turn your back away from court, yes. But when we were bowing, and basically, I just loved how, I mean, you could be so stuck in seeing like this one perspective of the corner of our world, which is, you know, criminal defense or criminal law in America. But then when you step out and go to a different country, you're like, wow, you know, like a different way of life, a different way of a criminal system could work.
Yeah. How about you, Megan? Have you had any experiences where employers here asked you about what you had done in Australia?
Definitely. I ended up landing 2 different externships based on the strength of that experience, and then I'm hoping to land a 3rd, but I don't want to jinx it. And one of the first things he asked me when we first met was, "So you worked on a capital trial, huh?" And was just asking me all a bunch of questions about how logistically that worked. What were the differences? Are there anything that they did there that I would want to do here? And he just was so curious and had so many questions. He was very impressed by it. So I've definitely found that it's opened doors, and I mean, it's just a good talking point. People don't realize how curious they are about something until someone has.
So Justin and Megan, I wanted to ask you a little bit about what it was like being in Sydney. What were your experiences there? What did you like about it?
It was definitely different. I'm not a city girl. I've grown up where there were more cows than people, so this was kind of the first time that I've spent an extended amount of time, more than just a few hours in a city. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. At least where I live, you didn't hear all sorts of road traffic. You didn't hear any of the nightlife, which was really, really nice. It was really easy to get around, and there were so many different things to do and a lot of different food, which is big for me. A plus.
I love it. I had a lot of fun in the city. It was just lots of beautiful architecture, lots of history, and also lots of different people from different backgrounds all congregating in one place. And the beaches were really nice. And
Didn't you live at the beach, Justin?
yes, I lived at Bondi Beach. I had a surfboard, and I went surfing a lot while fighting for social justice. And it's amazing because just being out in the lineup, which is where all the surfers sit before the wave breaks, you heard 3 different languages. You heard English, well, American English, Australian English, Italian, Spanish. You heard everything. And it was really amazing. And you got to meet so much wonderful people.
Yeah.
So many.
I particularly like just getting out on the water in Sydney, like all the ferries. You can travel everywhere on the ferries, just going back and forth.
Yes. There's a zoo actually right across the harbor. It's called Taronga Zoo. And the only way to get there is to take a ferry, which is really nice because it's kind of, it's not a ridiculously long ride. I think maybe 15, 20 minutes one way. You've got a couple stops along the way, and you get to go all the way around the Opera House, and there are a lot of really pretty things to see there. And then you climb up the top of a hill, and you get to walk your way back down and see all sorts of different animals. And the ferry is a good way to get there, and the only one.
And it felt like Jurassic Park because
Yes.
it's like a big island full of trees, and it's not connected to anything. The only way to get there is by boat.
Yes.
And then you hear animals or creatures, which
Right.
you don't see from our parts of the world.
And Justin, you went to Melbourne, I think.
Yes, I went to Melbourne. So Sydney was really beautiful architecturally, but then Melbourne's just really fun, and like there's just always live music on every corner, and it's like beautiful. Like I'd pay money to see this kind of music live, and they were doing it for free. Well, obviously you have to tip the buskers, and it's just such a fun place. There's this place called I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. But lots of great music venues, nightlife, great food, and really great Chinatown too. Lots of really great Chinese food in Melbourne. And it's just Melbourne is one of the coolest cities I've ever been to, just as Sydney as well. Melbourne's just another from like a different world. And then I was able to go to Fraser Island. Fraser Island's really beautiful. It's once in a lifetime area where it's a completely self-sustaining island with freshwater rivers. So
Is it off Melbourne?
oh no, it's near the sunny coast, and you drive on the beaches with you go off-roading, and I got to drive a 4-wheel drive into the jungles. But that's another point. If you book 2 weeks or 3 weeks out with Qantas Air, it's like cheap to fly to other parts. But I think Alice Springs is where you want to see Uluru.
Uluru, yeah.
If you want to see that, I think you have to plan that a month ahead. Alice Springs is a little tough, but Melbourne, the sunny coast.
So Justin and Megan, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. And we hope that with this brief introduction, we've given you some information about Australia that will encourage you to to come and join us on the Sydney program this summer, where you can have wonderful coursework, experience the wonders of Australia, flora and fauna. If you want to, do an externship afterwards and gain wonderful skills, and as Justin puts it, engage in social justice, and have a wonderful time in this wonderful, wonderful country. Thank you so much.